My name is Joe Prim, and I am the host of Prepare.Defend.Lead. In this episode, we are going to talk freedom versus domestication. If that sounds interesting, stick around, and I'll catch you on the other side of the intro.
The comfort and distractions of today collide to indulge our desires and provide a slow death by apathy. A superior primitive ethos exists. Prepare for tomorrow. Defend what you value and lead those you love. This mindset is the foundation of living an authentic life as a bold, disciplined man resolute in your mission. Prepare, defend, lead. Your mission. Own it.
All right, men, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to sit behind the mic here and share what's on my mind, I'm thinking about, and giving me the opportunity to challenge and encourage you to prepare, defend, and lead. What a great weekend so far this weekend as I go into the waning hours of Sunday night. Not my favorite time to record the podcast. Obviously, like to get this stuff done well ahead of time, but here we are. A great weekend though. Saturday night out on date night with my wife. It's been a while since that has happened because of the move and because of different changes that happen as you try to get a new system and try to get reorganized and get things figured out in the new home and where we live now. So that was awesome. And then spent a good chunk of today doing what I talked about in the last podcast, working on building that foundation of tribe, of brotherhood with other people that are important to us here in our family. So a great weekend all around, but excited to bring this podcast to you. A lot of times when I'm recording these episodes, I spend time during the week kind of jotting down notes or kind of monologuing to myself in my daily commute about the podcast. And this week, I was monologuing and thinking through this episode, and what I felt like I wanted to talk about was freedom and different areas in our lives that we have given up our freedom in order to have more time, in order to have other things in our lives. So we've given up freedom in other areas that sometimes we don't even necessarily recognize as freedoms. And as I was thinking this through and was kind of settling on what topic I was going to hit on this week, I flipped back through my notes that I had written down last week on some future episodes that I was working on, and noticed that the same topic, the same idea, really flowed into another set of notes that I had taken, and that set of notes was from a little bit different vantage point. So you'll see as we get into this, it's I believe a great way to illustrate what is going on and what has been going on in our culture in the Western society for a long time in order to get us men to where most of us are today. Like you, probably, unless you're one of those crazy cat guys out there, and if you are, I really can't do much for you, but I love dogs. I have had many, many different types of dogs, many different breeds of dogs. Since I was a very young kid, dogs have played a very important role in my life. And even though you have some things that you got to put up with, whether it's cleaning hair or cleaning up the backyard when I was a kid, there's something that they bring to you that brings value. And that's because those dogs, or the dogs that I have owned, the dogs that I have had, served a purpose. And most of them, their sole purpose really was they put a smile on our face. They helped teach us discipline and helped teach us to take care of animals, but they brought us joy. And in the case of the big dog I got right now, he'd probably tear your throat out if you tried to mess with my kids. But the reality is they have no freedom. They have no free will, and good dogs do as they are told or they face the consequences. They do what they're told in return for free stuff. For their health care, for shelter, for food, for water, for companionship. I have an interesting story because I have seen domestication happen. You see, we have a dog right now, one of the few, very, very few possessions, few things that we have that we actually brought with us from Illinois. At this point, it's dwindling down, and I think I have a few t-shirts and a few pairs of underwear, and Big Brutus are about what's left from our time in Illinois to where we are at this point. And we went way out of our way when we purchased Brutus. He was a Anatolian Shepherd, Pyrenees mix, which is ideal for guarding livestock. And from the time he was a pup, from the time we purchased him, we put him outside with the goats and our Great Pyrenees to watch over and protect our goats at night. There were a lot of coyotes where we used to live, and I did not feel comfortable leaving just the Great Pyrenees out there to watch over our goats. I felt that was unfair and giving the coyotes an advantage, so we wanted a puppy to team her up with. And Big Brute, as he was a little guy at that time, but he fit the bill. And watching those two grow and develop a relationship was awesome. You could see the breeding and the habits and the way that they carried themselves come out. And it was wonderful to see them sleeping in shifts. And what they would do is very early in the morning, you would go out sometimes to check on the water, check on, and let the chickens out and stuff. And the two livestock guardian dogs would be sound asleep. And I'm talking very, very fast asleep. And then later they'd wake up a little bit later in the morning. They would be awake during the day. And then again in the late afternoon, they would take another very long nap. And then they would be up through the night. And up through the night barking, up through the night, keeping an eye on what was going on with the goats. And they did a wonderful job. When we left our homestead there in Illinois, we packed up everything. We brought very little with us. And we sold off and got rid of our cats and all of our farm animals. But Big Brute we brought with us. I thought he was the one dog, the one house pet or possible house pet that we could salvage out of what we had there and would be good-natured enough and would be able to adapt to living in the home with a family. And I was right. He's a great dog. You can take him on a walk through the neighborhood, and he's one of those big dogs that just pays no mind to any other dog, to any other people. He's confident in himself and what he can do, and very obedient, smart dog. But what I have seen happen in him is him become lazy, and him become comfortable, and him become fat. He lost his purpose. He lost his toughness. He lost his grit. And he's changed. And on one hand, I can look at him and see he's exactly the same dog. Great personality, really smart, eager to please, fun to play with and wrestle with. But at the same time, he is different. He's not in as good of shape. He doesn't want to be outside when it's hot out. He's changed. Now, don't get me wrong. I've got nothing against this dog whatsoever. But this turn towards domestication, when you look at it from that vantage point, is pretty ugly. And why it's so ugly is you see a dog, you see a life where there was some freedom change into a life where there is little to no freedom whatsoever. And if you've been listening to this podcast for any length of time or ever vigilant, you know that I have a bit of a love for wolves. And on the surface, and even if you look at a DNA level, there's not that much difference between a wolf and a domesticated dog. Except for there's everything different between a wolf and a domesticated dog. Wolves have pure, unadulterated freedom. Dogs serve a purpose. Dogs are obedient. Dogs have little to no freedom in where they go, when they go outside, what they eat, or anything else. So I thought it would be kind of fun to do this dog-wolf comparison just because it kind of works. But the reality is each and every one of these points that I'm going to go through here, I think I have 7 of them, are things that we need to look at in our life and see if we are exhibiting and using our freedoms in this area, or if we are closer to the domesticated dog and wanting something and doing things that we don't necessarily want to do or should be doing in order to just fill our needs. So as we get into this, maybe it'll become more clear. But the reality is we as humans and we as men in Western society have given away many of our responsibilities. And when we give away our responsibilities, we also give away our freedom to carry out those responsibilities in a way that we see fit, like food. Dogs wait to be fed whatever processed food and whatever their owners give them. Wolves go out and hunt and track down what they can eat. We as human men, and women as well, have treated growing, raising food, hunting for food in the same way. We have given up our freedom or given up our responsibility to hunt and track and fish and grow our own food and raise our own food in order to have things easier, in order to give ourselves more time. But once again, when we give up that responsibility and give that responsibility to others, we lose some of our freedoms in order to do things the way that we want to do things, or to eat what we want to eat, in order to grant ourselves more time. And in many of these things that we'll go through in this list that are the same as this, the satisfaction that is received from going through and making something happen, from being the one who stocked a freezer, or being the one who raised a goat or chickens, or went out and collected eggs, grew a garden. This personal investment into the food that you eat makes the food that you eat much different. It makes your relationship to that food, to the nutrition, way different than when you go to a restaurant or go to a grocery store and pick up the things that you need. Because in giving up that responsibility to get that food, you give up your freedom to know where that food came from. You give up your freedom to know exactly what's in that, if it's truly healthy for you, if it's going to make you stronger or going to make you weaker. And yeah, we have a rough idea on that stuff, right? But we don't fully know the consequences of a lot of things that we eat. So how can we gain back our freedoms in that area? Begin to start hunting. If you don't know how to hunt, if you haven't gone hunting before, find somebody in your church, find a neighbor, find somebody that hunts regularly. There is nobody more excited to talk about hunting or to bring somebody hunting or to teach somebody how to hunt than a hunter. Any hunter I have ever met or been around or engaged in conversation with is very much into conservation. They want to teach and educate others on how to hunt in a smart way in order to keep populations where they belong. And the same with gardening. Everybody wants to jump into gardening and expects it to be easy. A lot of books you can read on that, a lot of YouTube videos you can watch on that, but really, there's no better way to learn than to get yourself dirty. Get your hands dirty. Start planting some seeds. See what grows well in your neighborhood. See what grows well in your climate. See how things grow. Do they grow best in this area in your backyard, or they grow better in this area? Do they need partial sun or partial or full sun? And begin to experiment and play around with that. Start with something easy to grow. You will receive something back, I guarantee you, when you start to exercise your freedom to put food on the table. Education. Dogs give up their pups. Wolves keep their own, train their own, and raise their own. Education is becoming a complete debacle in this country. The government educational system cannot get out of their own way. You must find a way to train up your children in the way that they should go, as it says in the Bible. That is your responsibility. And when you give up, once again, your responsibility to educate your children, you lose the freedom to have control over what they are being taught. It's amazing to see how much the homeschool groups have grown during this time of COVID. It's amazing to see how many parents have decided to make epic changes in the future of their family as they see the charade that's been going on in government schools. It's wonderful to see these people willing to make sacrifices to give up something in order that their offspring, the next generation, will be educated in what they think is important, will be educated in their values, not somebody else's, will be educated with their morals, not somebody else's. Now, many out there, when this topic comes up, said, there's no way I can do that. There's just no way we can do it. What's your priority? Maybe you can't. But maybe you can get creative. There are a lot of teachers that are going to be looking for jobs here shortly in certain areas because they get fired because they refuse to get a jab. Maybe you could get together with some families locally to have a teacher come in one day a week. And another group of families could pay her to teach them another day a week. Or maybe you could get enough families together to hire her on a weekly basis or a monthly basis while she looks for a job and tries to support her family. Now let's get creative. Let's find ways to do online learning. To get creative in order that we can exercise our freedoms to educate our offspring in the way we want them to go. Protection. Now, some dogs are trained well, and like our dog, very well bred in the way of protecting goats. And probably those smaller and weaker than themselves. But that pales in comparison And that's a very small percentage of dogs that are that way naturally. Most dogs that are popular are very small, and some of them got that squashed in face like a pug where they struggle breathing. Very different from their not so distant relative, the wolf, right? Who's well-rounded in protection and being vicious. My advice here, once again, when you give away your responsibility to protect your family, you make it very much more difficult to exercise your freedoms to protect your family in the way that you think is the right way. Now, like so many other things right now in our country, our Second Amendment rights are being questioned and being questioned and being questioned. Now, if we had all been exercising our freedom to protect ourselves rather than working hard to outsource that protection, maybe we would be in a different place right now. My advice in this area is to exercise your freedom in this area that you have at this time. Go out, buy a gun. Buy a rifle, buy something that you feel comfortable with. If you don't know what you would feel comfortable with, I will point you in the direction of somebody that can advise you in that area. And then go out and get yourself trained. Don't buy another gun and another gun and another gun. Spend some money on good, solid training. And again, if you need some recommendations in that area, I have absolutely no problem. I'll point you right in the direction of Brutus and my buddy Mark Bohr over there. You can go check him out on Instagram, or if you forget that, let me know and I'll help you get connected with him. He'd be more than happy to advise you on what would be your best options as far as personal protection and setting you up with a competent trainer in your area. It is time that we begin to take the protection of our own seriously. We have all seen the chaos that occurred last year throughout our country. Police officers were overwhelmed and unable to protect everybody. I just received a list or saw a list online of all of the things, all of the 911 calls that Austin PD will not be taken care of. And to be honest with you, I wish I had the list in front of me. I meant to grab it before this podcast, but you could probably look it up and it might be the same in your area. There are some pretty crazy things that Austin PD will no longer be responding to. And as we move forward with this craziness of firing people for the sole reason of not wanting to receive a jab, and we begin to make that continue across this country, more and more police departments will be struggling to take care of the people in their areas. So once again, when you give up your responsibilities, you make it much more difficult on yourself to have your freedom in those areas. Take back your freedom in protecting your family. It doesn't all have to be guns. Get yourself a good dog. Set up some security cameras. There are many more layers to it than just buying a gun and thinking that you're going to be safe. If you're going to have a gun, know how to use it. There are different layers to protection, but it is on you. It is your responsibility to make sure that you do everything possible to keep your family safe. And that sometimes even means intervening into what friends and where your family is going. Do you know where your wife regularly travels? Do you know where the playgrounds that she has play dates at? Do you know the neighborhoods of the grocery stores that she normally shops in? Do you know, when you're not around, where your family is? There are many layers to and many responsibilities in the protection of your family. But once again, if you just give all that responsibility to somebody else and think that somebody else is going to take care of everything, again, you're losing your freedom to take care of those things yourself. Number 4, tribe, like I talked about today. Spent time with people that I value their friendship. I value that relationship. There is no way to build deeper, stronger relationships with people other than to invest time and energy into them. That's it. There's no fast way. There's no hack to building a deeper relationship with somebody that you can trust. There's no way to do that other than through conversation and through doing things with those people. My little note on the side of comparison here between the dogs and the wolves is dogs have no tribe, no pack that they really fit in with, right? They just tag along. Wolves are the symbol of what real tribe, of what real pack means. We talked about this quite a bit in the last episode, but as Rudyard Kipling has a great poem called The Law of the Jungle, and one of the phrases in that poem is, the strength of the wolf is the pack, and the strength of the pack is the wolf. So the idea of tribe, the idea of brotherhood, the most powerful symbol of that we look to is the wolf. So again, as I talked about in the whole last episode, and if you didn't get a chance to listen to the episode, go back and listen. And I give 3 solid reasons why you should be battling and investing the time and energy into building into a tribe, into a brotherhood with the right people. And if you have the wrong people, of separating them out of your life, weeding them out in order to make sure that the priorities that are your priorities are the direction that you're going. Number 5, your health. Dogs are just fed processed foods, have little to no exercise, whereas, once again, the wolf eats what it wants to eat, when it wants to eat, and is always exercising, always wrestling, always chasing, always moving. Once again, another area where we have given up our responsibility to take care of our own health, which for centuries upon centuries was taken care of by the same as the wolf. Migrating as people, chasing down food, fighting, hunting, fishing, and these things made us into machines. We weren't lethargic. We weren't sitting. We weren't apathetic, because to sit, to be apathetic, to lay down, to slow down was to die. And that mentality kept people moving forward at all times. But health is important, and we give up our responsibility to take care of our own health and start trusting other people to know what we should eat or what we shouldn't eat, or how we should exercise or how we shouldn't exercise. For me, in this area is something I am always evolving, always trying to learn. Just finished up a great book called The Energy Paradox. I can't remember the author, but the book was about basically, in a nutshell, the book was about your gut biome and how necessary your gut bacteria is, and if it's not functioning correctly because of the foods that you're eating, your body ends up expending so much energy to try to fix that problem that you don't have the energy that you need to focus and to do your daily life. It's a great book. If anybody out there is looking for a really scientifically backed book on diet and understanding what we eat and how we should eat, and is so often for me, my understanding in all of these books that I've read is really, it goes back to how did we eat in centuries past? How did we live in centuries past? And so many things that ail us or difficulties or areas where we have lost control and lost our freedoms are solved the moment we start to look back towards history and how other people lived. So your health, take control. Take control of your health. It's your freedom. It's your right to control what goes into your body. Take control. Don't let other people bully or push you or coerce you to do something or to put something into you that you don't want to. You need a purpose. You need a hill to die on. There you go. Preparing. Number 6, preparing. Wolves spend their fall getting ready for the lean days of winter. And the domesticated dog does nothing but sit around knowing or believing that that next meal will be dropped in its bowl once again at 5 o'clock tonight. It is your responsibility to prepare. It is your responsibility to be as ready as you can for what's around the corner, because there are always difficulties around the corner, always. Since the beginning of time. It's not just you that was dealt a rough hand. It's not just somebody else you know that was dealt a rough hand. This is life. To live is to have difficulties. The better that you can weather those difficulties, the better attitude that you can have, the better prepared mentally that you are, the better prepared physically that you are, the better prepared that you are with food and shelter and water, the better off you will be. You will be put yourself in a position where you might not win the day, but you don't lose the day. And at some point, that might be as good as we can do. But in other times, and I've done a lot of other podcasts on getting started with being prepared for what's going on in your area. If you live up north, maybe it's snow. Maybe if you live down south, it's hurricanes. But to get yourself into a position where you can take care of what you need to take care of. This podcast is running a little long, so we'll finish this up here with speaking out. There's true freedom in speaking out. That's what our First Amendment in this country is about speaking out. And as I got to thinking about this, and I was kind of running a little bit long, and on my last podcast, I've only had 3 points, and in this one, I was all the way down to 6, and I couldn't help but throw this number 7 in there. Because it's really the epitome of speaking out, is the domesticated dog being told to be quiet when it's barking, and somebody's riding by on their bike, or the UPS man shows up, versus the wolf howling freely at the moon. Now, I'm not going to tell you what that means to you, what speaking out looks like to you, the podcast, blog, your neighbors, your parents, your friends. Not going to tell you what that means to you. But what I'm going to tell you is free men speak their mind. Once again, it's the difference between giving away the responsibility to speak the truth to somebody else and saying, well, somebody else will say something. Somebody else will do something. Somebody else will bring it up. Somebody else will write about it. And you saying, no, I have the freedom to take that responsibility, and I will stand up. I will say something. I will have a conversation that I don't want to have. Free men are free to speak their mind. Free men are free to speak their mind. They're free to hunt and chase and grow and raise their own food. Free men are certain in the education of their children. They don't give it away unknowingly or unsure of what is being taught. Free men protect those that they love and the people that they value. Free men have a tribe of like-minded people that they care about, that they take care of, that they work with, that they value, that they invest into. Free men care about their health because they know that without good health, they are of little good to their tribe. They are little good in protection, they are little good in education, and they are of little good in providing. Free men prepare for tomorrow because they know that they don't know what might be around the corner. And again, as I mentioned, free men speak out. Men, no one is coming to save you. Where you are today is a result of your beliefs and the decisions that you have made based on those beliefs. The time has come to uncover the hero within that has been buried under years and years of lies and expectations of others. The mission of this podcast is to help challenge and encourage men to prepare, defend, and lead. In the show notes, you can hit the link in the bio. I'm doing this podcast in order to bring this mission forward. If this podcast resonates with you, if you resonate with the mission here at Prepare, Defend, Lead, please go review this podcast. That review may make the difference in some other men's life. It might be just what it takes in order for them to not pass by this podcast because they see your review. Please leave a review. Reviews, subscriptions, and shares are what fuel this podcast and keep this mission moving forward. You can check out my book that I released earlier this year. It's called Open, 6 Life-Changing Principles. It's up on Amazon. You can order the paperback copy or get it on Kindle. If you have read that book, whether it was the free copy that I gave away early on this year before it was released or a new version there on Amazon, please review it. Once again, that review that you leave may set somebody's path in a different direction because your review might be what keeps somebody from flipping through in this day and age where it's difficult to hold people's attention. And then the third way that we're working on this right now with Prepare, Defend, Lead is my coaching program, Heroes Wanted. In Heroes Wanted, we work through 12-week program. We work through the 6 principles in a personalized way to change your life and move you in the direction that you want to go but have struggled to do on your own. I will be opening up a group version of Heroes Wanted soon. If you would like to get into that group, let me know. You can always direct message me on Instagram. It's the best way to get a hold of me. It's easy for me to get back to you. You can follow me on Instagram at Prepare.Defend.Lead. I just opened up an account on Gab, again, at Prepare.Defend.Lead. You can follow me there. Trying to build up a good following on Gab. So if you're there, follow me. I would appreciate it. Instagram, I've been at about the same number of followers for a very long time. I'll go up 5, go down 3, go up 2, drop down 4. It's made it very difficult to get the message of this mission out there. It's the only reason I'm on social media. Really, I don't like it whatsoever. but I do post regularly because this mission is so important to me. I want to get it out there, but I cannot do it on my own. I need your help. So I'm asking you for reviews, and I'm honest reviews, and I'm asking you to share what's going on here with Prepare, Defend, Lead. If we can get some momentum and bring others into the fold and get others, men, thinking the same and taking responsibility and fighting each and every day to uncover that hero that was put in them from birth by God, we can make drastic changes in this country that is facing many difficulties on many different fronts. As always, hold fast and God bless.